It's not just picking up a racket, getting back to the table, and just creasing your brow and thinking you're concentrating. I always pick the ball up in a certain way. I always walk back to the table. I set myself, and I'll hold my hand up like this, and I'm ready now. But I have sunk into a deeper state of hypnosis. It becomes almost a euphoric experience. I don't feel any effort. I feel like I'm gliding and floating, and it's not just winning and bashing the other guy's head into the ground. I was born with the skill. I don't say I created the skill, I developed it. Hustler, con man, actor, risk taker, gambler, adventurer, author. How could this guy cut a life out of ping pong, you know? Times were tough, you see. Most of the time, my dad made sure we had food, but there were times when, things really got rough. We got hungry, waiting for my dad to come back with some dough, maybe a win in a dice game or hit the number or whatever it was, because he was an inveterate gambler. He was a risk taker. I became a risk taker. I followed, my dad's footsteps. If I wanted to prove my self-worth on the table, I played for money. And certainly that was taking a chance. Who I am today was dictated by, we'll say, the impoverished past that I come from. I rose from that impoverished past and developed this skill and having the incentive or the obsession with the skill, because I thought this skill was my way out, towards recognition and riches. Once the bug had bitten me and I found out where the good players played, changed my life dramatically. If it hadn't been for a ping pong table, I never would have discovered my magic carpet that allowed me to make my escape, from this neighborhood at an early age. Go, find the glamour and the glitter and the recognition that eventually, I discovered. I was noted for having the hardest and the best forehand drive in the world, the strongest attacking game. No one was able to play more aggressively than I was.
The vigor of the teenaged New Yorker is the winning factor, and Marty Reisman is Britain's new table tennis champ.
Having won the British Open, was really, that brought me lasting recognition. It just spread my fame worldwide. I was invited to India, to Australia. I was in Hanoi 10 years before America got involved in Vietnam. And I was there playing ping pong. I likened myself almost as a Selig, He shows up in various circumstances, India had shaken off colonialism. I was at a Maharaja's party discussing this, Matter of fact, the Maharaja was trying to make a match between one of the Indian dancing girls and me. There's been an astonishing life career, so people tell me, all right? Word has opened many doors to me that have been very advantageous for me. I was a professional gold smuggler, having worked for a Chinese gold smuggling ring and all of that. Seemingly nefarious, but it was a product of the time. My buddy and I were bumming around England, playing money matches, we're goofing around, spending money, wine, women, the whole business of going through the gamut. Any young red-blooded American would go through, an opposite, especially, being like a quasi-celebrity, we attract a lot of attention and so on. We have our groupies, our following and so forth, I thought I knew it all, had every base covered, but learned painfully it's what you don't know that will kill you. Sato and his diabolical contrivance, that was true evil in its worst form. Well, in those days, you had a lot of, the thinking was, how good can the Japanese be? It was kind of like a Western supremacy kind of attitude. This was our crown. We're the best. They were practicing in secret. They wouldn't let anybody watch them play. The rumor came out they were using a secret new weapon invented by some Japanese scientist. And finally, that racket made its appearance. It was used by one player in the world who was not the best player in Japan, but they sent him along as a substitute player, thinking that his racket was so peculiar that it might befuddle new players if they hadn't played against this racket before. Sato walked out, somewhat innocuous looking, pigeon-toed, glasses, and he took out this racket. Of course, we're too far away to really examine it. And then we engaged in a match in which, it was very tense. A lot of people watched this match because many people thought I would beat him, that I would rip right through him, you see. But I found that in playing against him, the harder I hit, the faster the ball came back at me, because the ball hit the racket and came off with such tremendous rebound. It was like playing against a slingshot. That's the effect that the return had. The ball would sink in and be flung out at you like that, you see. This racket is almost a perfect reflection of a player's skills. Produces just enough spin to control the ball, but not to paralyze the opponent. So a certain rhythm is established. Once you tune into the other player, then it becomes a question of strokes and the dialogue that takes place between the two players that you don't have with sponge. If I'm watching an activity such as chess, would chess be interesting if you had just an opening and then you had an end game? Boom, 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 it's all over. It happens so quickly that the individual shots are over before the brain has a chance to digest it and interpret and figure it out and so on. When table tennis was in its classical, the golden age of table tennis, as is very often referred to, prior to 1952, was a game that engaged 10,000 people year after year at Wembley Stadium. I still cling to the pimple paddle of my past because it's honest, pure, and simple. The game is full of deceit, deception, and fraud, and that's wherein the game stinks. And until they eliminate that, you don't have a sport. I don't think I ever played a game for fun. First thing was do, get on the table, put the money up, start the game, and get the action going. People may picture me as a hustler. Basically, I'm more of a money player than a hustler.
You have hustled.
Oh yeah, I've hustled. I mean, I don't deny that. In my earlier days, I've hustled, sure.
How can you be a ping-pong player hustler? I'll tell you how. Here he is, Marty Reisman.
I went to play table tennis. It was like going out on a robbery. Like it was my gat, my gun, my rod. When I stepped on the table, I was going to step off that table with the money.
They said that you're a hustler. Now, does that mean that you say, well, I really don't play that well, and then you make money playing ping pong?
I'm sort of like an aging gunfighter now. I have this table tennis club in New York City, and the best players in New York City and best players throughout the United States and the world come down to my place and play me for money.
Marty would always have this big wad of money. And it'd be like as if you were in Las Vegas or something. He'd peel off money and put it on the table, and whoever would win would collect it. And sometimes this would go on till 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Well, they talk about my personality. They talk about my movement. They've called me the Nureyev of table tennis, the Baryshnikov of table tennis.
Style doesn't imply to anything in terms of it applies to one's skills before an audience, how one performs, how one moves, how one dresses, how one talks, the personal aura of someone or whatever it may be. Because if you wear your style well, it's like wearing a garment. There's ways of wearing a garment stylishly, and there's a way of wearing style in a gross, crass manner. I felt I really never reached my potential. I mean, my career was cut short. Your skills start to decline a little bit, then you become a little more analytical, as I have about my game. And I'm still learning. I'm still going through a process of learning and polishing up my skills. So I'm constantly doing that, thinking about it, playing about it, altering my strokes, and so on. No ball gets through my defense, Steve.
Glad you're practicing.
I consider myself, even at age 76, in the process of still learning my craft. Most people think I'm nuts because they think there's a limit to how far I can go. What do they say about me, Steve?
They say that he was the greatest player in the world at one time.
Well, but I had a good public relations firm. You're about my age, I figure.
Oh, way ahead of you.
What are you talking about? You want to put up some money on that? Are you a betting man? I want to play challenge matches. That's what I want to do. I want to get my hands on some of these sponge players. And I want to play them on equal territory with equal paddles, you see. I don't want any mechanical bullshit involved. And so I want to engage some of these players in a real intense kind of money match. That's wherein I think my ability lies, and that's wherein I think I can make an impact, on the game as well as on the media. Despite the fact that I'm 76 years old, I got a lot of piss and vinegar in my veins. I mean, I'm nowhere near getting ready to retire. So if you want to take me on personally, a little money match, maybe I'll sit in a chair and play you, I'll tempt you somehow. If you got any lost in your soul, you're on.